Okay, well, let's move on then to Africa and Darfur.
Yeah, indeed. And in fact, that will link back to Vanessa's report rather closely. But we start with the British High Commission, who in Nairobi have been busy tweeting about increasing the exports from Africa into the UK market, with a load of footage here showing the President of Kenya, William Ruto, smiling in London with Keir Starmer, presumably because he's managed to get away from the rioting and discontent in his own country. Now, Ruto himself has used the same surveillance platform to remind the public of the, quote, areas of mutual interest between Israel and Kenya. And that links obliquely to the concurrent reporting from New York on the activities of the United Nations Security Council. Now, first of all, we have James Kariuki, the Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN, who made a statement about humanitarian access to those in need in Sudan. This was back on 27th of June. He said little of note and absolutely nothing that could constitute action on the matter. But I would say his remarks are perhaps best characterised by his encouragement of others to do something. Quote, we welcome continued efforts by the UN, the African Union and countries of the region to advance an inclusive political process. And then on Thursday, 10th of July, the council met to discuss the situation in Darfur. And this was prompted by a report from the deputy prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Nazat Khan. Now, before considering what it is that she did say, I should just point out the remit of the ICC, as shown here on the banner at the top of their website, says trying individuals for genocide, war crime, crimes against humanity, and aggression. Now, she was keen to begin by thanking the president of Sudan for attending, a point of significance which I'll come back to. Khan's opening gambit was to state that, quote, the humanitarian position has reached an intolerable state, which makes it significant that her statement, which was nearly 2,000 words long, she did not mention a single date. Now, the reference to the humanitarian position could describe any point over the last several decades, making this just another demonstration of the international community's sustained ability to preserve and protect vested interests while talking as though something will happen. And to pick out an example with which to illustrate the point, Nazat Khan said, quote, and I wish to be clear on a key priority in this respect. We must work together with seriousness and focus to secure the arrest of those individuals subject to ICC arrest warrants presently in Sudan. Omar Hassan Ahmad al-Bashir, Ahmad Harun, and Abdel Rahim Mohammed Hussein. Now, she's referring here to a process which has already been going on for 20 years, and still no sanctions have been brought against any of those three men. UK Column has covered the extraordinarily ineffectual record of the ICC, and I refer back to Khan's opening remarks about Sudan's president, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. In 2008, when delivering a similar report, the then ICC prosecutor, Luis Moreno Ocampo, said, quote, my office has a duty not to intervene when national authorities are conducting national proceedings. This is the principle of complementarity. The Sudan claimed that it would investigate and prosecute perpetrators of crimes. Well, obviously it did not. Now, as to whether there is any sincere desire for or expectation of change, this clip examines the effectiveness of the UN set alongside the remarks of Kieran Prendergast, the former Undersecretary for Political Affairs at the UN, as recorded for a PBS Frontline documentary from 2007.
At the summit, world leaders toasted a final agreement that covered a great deal of ground. Within it was a section on the responsibility to protect. It was an endorsement of an emerging legal norm that gave the UN authority to intervene and, if necessary, even invade a country to protect the civilian population. It seemed to offer hope. But once again, principles the UN put on paper would not translate into concrete action to save the people of Darfur. Veteran UN officials were candid in their skepticism.
We don't mean it when we say that we're not going to accept other further Rwandas, but I never thought we did mean it. And it's a very sad conclusion, but I don't think there's any evidence to sustain the view that we did mean it. We may have meant it at a kind of, at a level of generalized indignation, but when it comes to accepting the consequences of that, we don't.
Prendergast there, I think, telling you really everything you need to know. And of course, it should be pointed out that UNAMID, the UN mission to Darfur, was shut down in 2020, and there's none running there currently. Now, of course, given the very short memory that the public is permitted to have by the mainstream media and the various national and supranational governments of the world, it's no surprise to see follow-up statements such as that from Colin McIntyre, the ICC, in response to the ICC report. McIntyre said that he was, quote, gravely concerned and that there are reasonable grounds to believe that war crimes and crimes against humanity may have been committed and indeed are continuing to be committed in Darfur. He even tried to turn the failed arrests of the three men as a warning to perpetrators who still believe themselves beyond the reach of international law, when of course it is quite the opposite. Now, as to why and how this situation is allowed to perpetuate, there is of course not enough time in this report to go into sufficient detail, but the activities of the government of the United Arab Emirates, as Vanessa has just been articulating, should be scrutinised to a much greater degree. And under the auspices of humanitarian aid from neighbouring Chad, UAE has been accused of supplying weapons to the Rapid Support Force, RSF, the latest incarnation of the Janjaweed militia, for the continued conflict in Darfur, as referenced by this Guardian article from April. Certainly, the UAE is the largest purchaser of Sudanese gold, as shown here by the OEC's statistics from 2023, making them the largest single contributor to the Sudanese economy and therefore have a huge amount of influence. The UAE has made no secret of its plan to control an enormous number of deep water ports all over the world via the state-controlled DP World. And as reported by UK Column, the UK itself is partnered by DP World via British international investment, most notably at the controversial port of Berbera in Somaliland. And moving on to this piece in the Cradle, which describes this as a covert empire across the Red Sea. It's certainly worth reading, and there'll be a link to it in the show notes. Now, the other factor deserving equal consideration, though it's most certainly not exclusive to the UAE, is the outsourcing of agriculture to Sudan. And here we have Grain, a non-profit, which has examined this, reckoning that UAE now controls more than 1 million hectares of Sudanese farmland during what is described as a famine in Sudan by the United Nations. And perhaps most critically, the UAE is seen as a key strategic partner in the alliance against Iran, most notably, as Vanessa's just been describing, via the Abraham Accords, and indeed her relationship with Israel. So, UAE rather than Vanessa. It is an enduring and complex picture, and one that strongly suggests that none of the actors involved have any interest in improving. Now, I don't know if we've got time to have a few thoughts from Vanessa on that situation, but perhaps particularly the role of UAE in Sudan's, degenerate state of affairs.
Well, I mean, it's just horrific, but I think what is equally scary is the clear involvement. I mean, I haven't checked on the Tony Blair Institute of the connections to Sudan, but I'm sure they will be there because Tony Blair is clearly partnering with the UAE in this Israel-linked expansionist project. And of course, it's all related to water, largely for Israel in particular, and UAE that don't have access to water resources at all.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. Tony Blair, as we've mentioned many times in this program, is interested in the whole Sahel region, which is that whole region south of the Sahara Desert. So I think he's absolutely active in the area. If you like what the UK Column does, you would like to support us, the link to do that is on the front page of the UK Column website. Click on there and you'll find all the options. Thank you very much to everybody that is helping us out financially. If you can't do that, then please do share anything you see on the UK Column website that takes your fancy. Now let's have a look at this. Fact-checking the fact censors. This was Diane's discussion with Dr. Judith Brown. Went out at 1 p.m. yesterday. It's now available on demand on the website. Please do watch that if you haven't seen it. Judith knows what she's talking about, and it's another hugely interesting conversation. Tonight, Jerome will be asking the question, do we really have free will, with Todd Hyan. So that's at 7 p.m. in the usual live stream places, ukcolumn.org/live, and so on. And tomorrow at 1 p.m., Joy Warren is the guest.
So, yeah, her third interview with the UK column, talking about the massive concern around fluoridation of water by water companies and the effectively indiscriminate medication of the population by doing it.
On demand, on location, UK column on location. Saturday, the 18th of October, 2025, in New York. Tickets go on sale on the 20th of July. We're looking forward to it, Charles.
Yeah, we are. We're very much looking forward to it. And there will be tickets available for both the in-person event and indeed the live stream from the 28th of July. So we'll be announcing speakers very soon.
And this weekend, then, the Thetford Truth and Freedom Festival taking place in the Angel Hills in Swallow Lane in Larling. And Diane will be speaking at that. So get along to that if you possibly can. And the question of devolution, Sandy, which we're about to talk about, you're going to be speaking on this on Sunday.
Yes, I am indeed. The distance meeting in the southwest at Goffinland in Devon, in Exeter. I think Andrew Bridgen's speaking as well. I don't know what he's speaking on, but he usually pulls it out of a hat. And I'm just going to be really focusing on devolution, because it is really something that I'll be speaking about later, and so will you. And it's a really important topic, because it is all about our democracy, or lack of at the moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy. And speaking of Andrew Bridgen, he will be speaking in the Seven Stars Hotel in Totnes on Friday, the 25th of July. Patrick Henningsen will be introducing that, and there'll be a Q&A afterwards. The details for all these events will be in the show notes. So have a look at the today's news program on the UK Column website for more on these things. Now,